as soon as that came up, I was just like thinking about our last podcast, or was it 2 ago, where Anthony was talking about the turtle trip, right? And the people in the van smelling and comparing it to stinky pond turtles and all that. So
Yeah, you mean the trip when Emily was the only brave soul who's not a gentleman, a smelly gentleman? Yeah.
Exactly.
Once again, here we are tonight, all gentlemen. You need some women on the CheloniaCast, guys. What is that about? Get some more females.
Wow.
I'd say Jack's aroma is less stinky pond turtle and more Florida skunk ape.
Oh man,
fair.
Brutal.
Those are his people. The skunk ape is like a Yeti or a Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, I mean, he wears like a size 13 shoe, so.
Yeah. Oh, so I remember eighth.
That's
grade.
All? Right? Exactly. I was wearing a size 12 in 6th grade, so
My hand's bigger than yours, though, so.
That's true. We talked about that. So Jack and I were out in the field. Gosh, it was only a couple weeks ago. It feels like longer than that.
Yeah, I know.
Michael
it does feel like longer than that.
And his hands are way bigger than mine, but my feet are bigger. So, but Jack's huge, and I wrote about that in the book because Jack and Wyatt and Michael are all in the Great American Turtle Chase book, and I wrote about that because we had quite a few tall fellas out there in the field. No offense, Wyatt.
Yeah, the average height of that group of guys was like 6'5" or something.
So you included in your book the size of everyone's hands? Is that
no the height? No, when we were out just a couple of weeks ago, we were comparing hand sizes because it's interesting. I'm huge, but I don't have huge hands, and that's an interesting aside for anyone who knows that I love to palpate turtles a lot, actually, because Jack is. That's an interesting thing I wrote about too. Jack handles turtles in a way that I've never seen anyone handle turtles. And I know you've heard this before, Jack, but you have like a large alligator snapping turtle, right? And he'll just be like booping its nose and touching it around the sides of its face and around its mouth and everything. He has a knack for it. I mean, you haven't been bit by an alligator snapping turtle yet, have you, Jack? But you handle them.
Not yet.
You should, and you will, yeah. But there is a certain level of expertise there that is very impressive. And anyway, my thing is palpating turtles, as a lot of people know, but people usually make comments about how, well, I'm huge and I have big hands, so how do I do that? But I actually, for my size, have kind of dainty hands. I'm not proud of it.
I know a gravid turtle. I know a gravid turtle hates to see Jack coming.
Exactly.
I love it. This is good. We're off to a great start.
Yeah, we're. This is great. I haven't heard anything from Michael or Ethan yet, though.
I saw them comparing the sizes of their hands. What's going on over there?
Oh, that's cute.
I've got him by half an inch or something.
My hands are just very tiny for my size.
Oh yeah.
So is it hands or fingers? Start comparing the palms, right? My palms are the same size as my dad's, but his fingers are nearly an inch longer than my fingers. I got my mom's short fingers. I got my dad's big palms. It's wild.
That's not right.
No. Is this a guy thing or is this a turtle guy thing? Comparing hands? What is that about?
They measure them in sports. I'm pretty sure it's a guy thing.
I think when you're weeks out in the field with the same comrades, things get a little intimate.
Yeah. Things get a little freaky.
It gets weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's not like that with women. Not in my experience.
It's definitely like that with men, that's for sure. I think Wyatt, Michael, Ethan, Anthony, I think all of us know that.
All guys do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my attempt at humor.
Yeah, Jordan's thing was quite a bit of fun. I was thinking of leaving. I'm in Delaware right now, so is Wyatt. So I just did it, didn't I? I just looked at the chat when I was talking. Was I supposed to?
You did it. I saw it happen.
He sucks you right in.
Yeah.
He sucks you right in.
Well,
And
no,
no
because
one
I saw it
watching
said roll
sees it.
intro, so I don't know if like I should stop because it like or
I was waiting for a pause. I was just
Go
warning
for
you
it.
all it was coming, but
That's all right.
now it's going to come. Everybody
Yeah.
knows it's coming.
It's
Here
coming.
it goes.
it's coming.
That
Oh,
was
I
so
accidentally
abrupt.
just cut it short. My bad.
It's good.
You already
I'm
messed
still
it up,
getting used.
Jack.
They made
Thanks.
some tweaks to this, and so I'm still getting used to some of those tweaks. So anyway,
Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Pondcast. I got to tell you, you know what this episode is? This episode is like when you go out to dinner with your friends and they order fries for the table. You didn't know that that's what you wanted, but now that it's in front of you, it is so, so good. You're enjoying yourself. That's what this is, right? We're joined today by the CheloniaCast. Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Hey.
It's great to
Hey.
be here. Been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, we've been wanting this to happen for a while. So since you already mentioned it, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about it. You all just got back from a trip from Florida, right? Recently?
Several. Jack and Wyatt live in Florida. Wyatt wasn't able to make it down, unfortunately, last minute, but Jack and Michael and I were out there. What do you think, guys? Had a good time?
Yeah, that was quite a bit of fun. You were right earlier. You said it feels like a lot longer ago when it was really just a couple weeks ago. Like,
Yeah.
feels like a distant memory already.
Yeah,
What
totally.
did you do? Turtle stuff?
Yeah, turtle stuff. Yeah, we went down. We met up with Jordan Danini. Went to one of his box turtle surveys. It's always like pretty secretive about locations and stuff, but we did fairly well. I mean, I'd only seen one Florida box turtle before, and some of us hadn't seen any. So even though we only got like 5 or 6 or something, that was still like awesome for most of us because it's way more than we'd seen before. So
Yeah, it's funny because Jordan's such a good host. He wants to
yeah.
It was like when we went to Emily, when we went to Ralph Till's place, and you mentioned how his wife is like aggressively hospitable. Like she's so wants to make sure you're having a good time. Jordan's the same way. So he was so disappointed that we only found 6 Florida box turtles and a Burmese python. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like if we found one Florida boxer, because I was one of the people who's never seen one before. If we found one, that's like the most amazing thing ever. So that in itself was worth the price of round trip plane tickets. And then we found 5 more. So there you go. How about you, Michael? Did you have fun?
That's a good number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to go out there. I haven't had a lot of experience with box turtles, really. It's usually just bycatch doing other things, and seeing that habitat's so unique, and some of the individuals are really beautiful. The one thing that does stand out to me is just if people are interested in what goes into these sorts of things. I know, Anthony, you wrote about this. You got this experience a little on your Cannonball run. But I think I pushed about 24 hours and no sleep, and most of that was driving or hiking and kind of, uneven, undulating terrain. And it was just like the amount of planning we do with some of these things is really dismal, but it's fun because we kind of have the time now when there's a break. But we all managed. We watched these guys graduate, Ethan and Alex, and left at like 10 o'clock to drive 4 hours and sleep for 3, get up and go for another 24. But it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Can I ask a question? So you mentioned Ethan graduated. So real quick, so we're here. We're joined by Wyatt and Jack and Michael, and I think a lot of people know you guys by now. Ethan is a little bit newer to the crew, so I wanted to give an opportunity just to introduce. So Ethan just graduated. Can we talk about that?
Yes, I just graduated from the University of Florida. I was a wildlife ecology and conservation student.
That's wonderful.
I did some research.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I did some research at UF dealing with dealing with body condition of turtles in a certain lake called Lake George, because there's a lot of vegetation die-off. So I did a lot of research with that while I was undergrad.
Man, you guys are, and I said this from the beginning. Okay,
Ethan, you should tell us your age.
Yeah, please do.
I'm only 19. I'm younger than all these guys.
Get out
And
of
you-
here.
and you
just
graduated- What?
Yes, I graduated with a Bachelor of
different.
Science, yes.
I thought that only happened in TV shows like Doogie Howser.
Yeah, movies, right?
I was able to get a dual enrollment at Santa Fe College when I moved here in 2020, and then it's been a grind from here. But I'm finally free for now before I move on to grad school.
So I'd like to know what everyone's age here is. Now, when I was out with you guys in April, Wyatt and Jack, I feel like you guys were 19 at that point. Are you both 20 yet or no? Jack, how old are you?
At that time, I was 20. Now I'm 21.
Got it.
And
okay. Are you 20
Wyatt
now?
was 21 at the time, and he's 22 now.
What? You're 22? I made
Yeah,
that
I
up.
am 22.
Oh, hopefully I didn't put that in the book. Then maybe it was Michael. Who's young? Michael, how old are you?
21. We all have effectively the same birthday.
Yeah,
It's-
Jack and I are October 17th.
24 hours.
Wow.
Wyatt is exactly a year older than me, and then Michael is a day younger than me.
How could the majority of the future turtle savants all be hatched on the same day? That's pretty cool.
I'd say it's fate.
Hatched.
Yeah.
Chris Drake in the chat says he feels old and dumb. Join the club, Chris. Join the club, my
Chris,
friend.
you and me too. Yeah.
Spend a day in the field with these guys. When we first got together, we had just met and we're hiking, trying to find gopher tortoises or whatever the heck we could find. And Wyatt is talking to me about turtle literature, and I love turtle books. I've got a whole collection I'm very proud of. And I felt very dumb during that conversation, but also excited to, you can't have those conversations all the time, especially with a 19-year-old who's not actually 19, but 21, apparently.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I'd say that you definitely held up your end of the conversation. I wouldn't sell yourself so short.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take the compliment and I'll roll with it. Okay, I'll be quiet now. I'm talking too much.
How long were you in Florida for?
Me, I was in Florida. It was only like 3 days, but it was action packed. So, got off the plane and went to Iguanaland, and then the next day was in the field trapping with Jordan, and then went to Mark Cantos' place, Turtle Source, and then was out in the field again with these guys. And then where the heck did I go after that? It was a lot of things. I went to like a Herp Society's holiday party that I had never, it was, I just talked to people and said, what's going on? But that's a really cool part about this community as it grows and as we, continue to build this community, because it didn't exist like this 10 years ago, and it certainly didn't exist like this 20 years ago. But like when we were going on the Cannonball Run, the turtle chase, we were starting in Jacksonville, and we had already decided we were going to go to the Ichetucknee Springs. And then before we even landed, like right before, it was like the day we were leaving, it was like we were traveling to go there, and Wyatt made a post about how he was in the Ichetucknee Springs. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So we ended up meeting up, and that's how they became like characters in the book. But yeah, it's just anytime I travel now, and I'm sure most people do this, but anytime you travel, you try to find people, connect with them. Like I'm going to speak in Las Vegas in February. If there's anyone who knows anyone in the Vegas area, I'm looking for a turtle related thing, because it's so weird to be going somewhere and not have something else lined up outside of like the work reason that I'm going there, if that makes sense. But anyway, it was awesome to be out with these guys. And I made it a point, actually, when we got to with this trip, when we got out looking for the box turtles, to hook up with Michael and Jack first. And we kind of started that hook. Come on, really, Jack? Really?
Sorry, I'm really corrupted. I'll keep it to myself.
I made it a point to spend quality time physically with those two in the field looking for box turtles, and it was fun. We were physically together, and it was quality time.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I'm just jealous that I was stuck tossing salads that weekend.
Tossing salads.
He really was.
I work at a salad place in Florida, so
Okay.
I was working that day.
Yeah, that's literally his job.
That's the best.
October is a great month for hatching turtle experts. Sure is.
I like
Yeah.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
special turtle minds in the making. And I knew that when I first saw Michael at age, what were you, Michael? 14? I think you were with your mom at TTPG the first time we met, and you had just come back from Madagascar.
Yeah.
Like, this kid is going to be the next Pritchard. And then there are more of you. Like, how does that happen? Only in today's day and age can that happen. Where and honestly, you're all like your own version of like LeBron James, who like at age 16 was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Like, that's who you guys are to the turtle world, and it's really exciting to be able to know you guys and to get to know you over the years, because you've been around for a while and you're like not old enough to drink, except Wyatt is.
I want to circle back around to Michael's mom. A show of hands, who here's mom listens to the podcast? Anyone? Just me? Me and Michael? That's it? Really? Okay. All right. Never mind. Moving on.
What was the question?
I'm saying mine.
Who listens?
Who here has their mom also
Yeah.
listen to the podcast?
Oh,
Yeah.
got it. My mom doesn't
No,
listen.
really?
My she's a big shot.
You're a big shot.
And
You're
she's
a
not
bigger
impressed by me.
shot.
No, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. Physically, big only physically. Like Jack.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about what you guys did in Florida. Now there's other people who are part of the CheloniaCast too, right? It's not just the four of you. There's 7 in total, or 8. 8? 7?
We have a good slew of people who work with us. Really, it tends to just be Jack, Michael, and I who do the filming, but we have a wonderfully talented team of editors and graphic design artists who kind of help put together the thumbnails, social media posts, and just that pumping the videos out. We're really grateful for that.
Yeah, you have a killer logo, by the way. Is that one of your team did that?
That's Ken.
Yeah, that was Ken Wang who did that. Who's he's an interesting guy, but we love him for it.
I mean,
That's a pretty
Ken's
professional looking
savant.
one.
If you want to know a savant, Ken's good at anything he does. It's really incredible. I mean, this guy, he told me one time, I was like, dude, you have like 5 publications, like peer-reviewed papers, not just notes or anything, but full-on things he's done, first author. And I was looking on his list, and there's a 29-page paper about like Nash equilibrium and economic analysis. And he's just like, yeah, I just did that for fun on my own time. It's just like, this guy's incredible. And he helps with the graphics and everything, and just is really good at anything he does. It's a really talented dude that's fun to hang out with.
Yeah, when he's not doing Russian opera.
Yeah, this is important. Can I ask an important follow-up question to all of you? Do you have any friends who are dumb? Because I've had a lot of really unintelligent friends. You know, I mean, I know you guys have goofy side and everything, but you're all extremely intelligent. You have dumb friends?
Yeah, I mean, most of the buddies I go bar hopping with, or people that I hang out my day to day that aren't Jack, I would say are definitely. I wouldn't say they're dumb, but they're definitely in a different place in life where I'm in. Where I'm grateful to be in the place I am in life, just because I'm doing a lot of work for my age. But these are all college kids who are just more concerned with getting through the semester, partying, and all that fun stuff.
Right. Well, that was your answer, Wyatt. I think Ethan might have a different answer. It's just my guess.
Jeremy Thompson's watching now.
I wonder who that is, Ethan.
Not you guys, but other people. But yeah,
wait, hold on. I missed it. What did Ethan say?
I said I do have a couple of dumb friends, but they're fine.
Yeah. Is that supposed to be me?
No, not you guys. Other people.
I was wondering.
Not you.
Well, I was gonna make the same joke, and then Anthony went on the whole sappy. You guys are all extremely intelligent, so I would have looked awful for calling Jack out like that. Jack and I do have this one friend though, Jeremy Thompson. He's an absolute moron.
Shots fired.
I met that guy.
He's in the chat. That's why.
Hi, Jeremy.
Yeah.
No, he's great. Oh, that was a joke.
No,
I think
I don't know.
That's a question for the history books.
I'd like to give it a more like serious answer. Is I have like kind of a harder time connecting with most people that kind of float around and have no real ambition in life. It's like, I don't know. I just can't do superficial things for the most part. It's like,
yeah,
it's like either serious turtle stuff or it's like with my close friends and we're just like fooling around or something. But I don't know. Most people mean, I don't know, boring to me. It's like
I think you get to a certain point where you're so hyper focused on something that matters so much to you that when you have people in your life who don't understand, it makes it difficult to connect going forward as you continue to move down that path. Michael, were you going to say something?
No. I think you have to define dumb. It's like, I feel like, like I've played sports and football like Jack and everything. And some of those people I wouldn't say are the most intelligent, but I feel like I've learned a lot of things in my life from just doing that and being around that kind of group. You know, you have to have that mentality sometimes. So I don't know. I think that's a hard question to answer, but.
No, I definitely think a better question would be, do you have any neurotypical friends? Just because everybody we typically surround ourselves with are just so, hyper focused, just out of straight up autism, I don't want to say everybody is, but this is a community that, you kind of have to have that special interest or like that hyper fixation to kind of be really passionate about such a group of unloved or really animals that people really see as living rocks.
Well said.
I feel like you can have different groups of friends for different things. So if you have friends, obviously we're all turtle people here, so we tend to have a lot of turtle friends or animal friends in general, but then there's things that you want to have a connection with that's maybe completely unrelated. So, I mean, I just got into quilting and all of my quilting friends are older women. I wouldn't talk to them about turtles. So I wouldn't compare them because they're pretty different. But just for example, you tend to gravitate towards people who have a lot of similarities with you. So if you're highly intelligent, like you gentlemen, then of course you're going to be surrounded by people who are also really intelligent. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about the CheloniaCast. So you started in 2022, right?
I mean, kind of, yeah. There's like kind of a history to that. I spoke at the Turtle Survival Alliance conference about this in July, just like the history to it. We all kind of created a presentation about it. But I think the idea, Jack Wyatt, you guys might remember better than me, but I think Chelsea was the first person that said we should come up with a podcast.
No, actually. So I remember how it went down pretty well. So this all started the second round that we did at the CRI, where the Turtle Conservancy had flown us out to pack up the Pritchard collection to ship it out to Ojai. So while we were doing all of this, I think this was maybe when we were out dinner, because one of the big bits, what happens often when Jack, Michael, and I meet up is there's a bit that carries out through the whole trip, just like an inside joke. And one of the big inside jokes for this trip was Joe Rogan. And we talked about Joe Rogan, and I was like, and we talk about how anybody can get a podcast nowadays. And that kind of put the light bulb in my head, and I said, we could do a podcast because there aren't a whole, and this was back in 2022. So at that point, the Pondcast was the only turtle podcast I'd heard of at the time. So I'd say, there's a niche there that can be filled, because there's only one person out there doing it. We could go out there and we could do it better, or not better, differently. Sorry. So I kind of said that, and I planted that seed, and I definitely would say we definitely worked on it for a little bit, but I don't think this would have ever happened if it wasn't for Jason Wills doing his class project on making a podcast and bringing it together. I think that was the moment where specifically Michael saw that, like, oh yeah, we can actually do this. This is a lot easier than we thought, and like there's a genuine benefit to doing something like this.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. That was what. Yeah, that's a better background on it. Hey, Jason reached out to Jack and I too. He was doing this project for he's a few years older than us, and he's done a lot of school. Like I talked about this. He's taken like 100 40 something credits. He needed 120, and that serves him, I guess. But so he was doing a project like at the tail end of his college experience, and he asked us to come on that. I just remember after the fact, like, this was, 45 minutes of just talking about turtles and potentially reaching an audience that's not their first thing that they're going to gravitate towards necessarily. I thought this would be really interesting. Can I help you with this? I asked him, and he said, this is a project. It's a short-term thing, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'd be down to collaborate on something and, see if we can start something that is more long-term and isn't associated with this. And I've noticed, like, when I've got an idea for something, a lot of times it'll come in pulses, and the best ones stick 3 pulses. So you'll have that initial, like, someone comes up with the idea, you talk about it for 20 minutes, and then later on you'll revisit it. And at the second time is when Jason revisited, we drafted up a document of people we'd like to interview and put that somewhere, and then dropped it again because we're in high school, junior year. There's a lot going on. And then in the tail end of senior year, I don't know exactly how we started talking about it. Maybe the guys remember better, but it came back up and we said, all right, we've got a list of people. We have a semblance of an idea of how to do this. Now let's figure out a framework to make this actually happen. How do we record it? How do we make it quality? And so it kind of shot off from there.
For anyone who hasn't tuned into your show before, and this is a question for anybody, I think we're doing a good job spreading it around a little bit. What is it that, like, what's special about your show? Because now there are a lot of turtle podcasts, and there have been some already that have come and gone, and some others that are really new. But what is it about your show that makes it special? I can answer that, but you're our guest, and I want to ask you in your own words, what is it that makes yours special?
I definitely think because I've taken a listen to a lot of the other turtle podcasts, and they're all great. I think what makes ours different, though, is the fact that we have a heavy academic focus. And focus on the academic and field research side, where a lot of the other podcasts I feel a lot more captive keeping based.
Yeah, I'd say I think that's what do you guys think? Just being part of it, and Jack, Ethan.
I think that's fairly true, but we also have a pretty good mix of, like, everything. If you look at, like, just look holistically at everything, every guest we've had on so far. We've covered, like, almost every corner of the turtle world. Like, there's a heavy, like, it's largely, like, academics and researchers, but there's tons and tons of, like, everybody, all kinds of different people have been on there. As long as someone's super passionate about turtles and wants to talk about some cool stuff, it's, that's about all that qualifies them. So.
Yeah, no, I definitely say we are a generalist podcast. One of my big things, and one of my big things I wanted to get out of this podcast is I've wanted to give everybody in the community a voice. It just happens that most of the people we're giving a platform or a voice happen to be students, like Emma Browning with her box turtles, or people that just need just something to talk about what they're doing and get it out there in the world. It's either that, or it's like we have people like Russ Mittermeier or Anders on talking about the history of turtle conservation, or we have Charlie on. He talks about, how he got into turtles and how much fun it is to, rear cherry heads and stuff. Or Dan, we've even had people like Dan the Turtle Man on, and that one, and, we love to do a little bit of everything, whether it be a serious academic discussion or a fun little, we all love turtles. This is kind of just like a boys' call.
I think something for me personally that, like, when you look at, okay, what do we stand for? What's the subject of it, is like, what were our intentions developing it? And I think, like, yeah, it's more academic. We're interested in the research side of things, but I think it is good to say, like everyone's mentioned, is we want to talk to anyone about turtles. It's really just, that's the unifying factor. And we're willing to have a conversation with anyone. And the way that we pick the guests is really someone, we have a group chat for it, and someone says, hey, this would be a good idea, and we'll figure out a way to connect with them and see if that person's interested. So there's not really, I think just our background is more kind of, there's an inclination towards the more academic side of things and the research field side of things, but we want to have the conversations with anybody.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to pop in here real quickly, and like I've often thought that CheloniaCast and the podcast have kind of been, in some ways they're the polar pair of opposites that like fits together well. The podcast tends to have more episodes which are more like the hosts and the guests like just kind of chewing the fat, and the conversation just kind of goes where it is. We have a few where it's been heavily interview focused on the guest, just asking questions, grinding away at it. I feel like yours has the exact opposite mix, where a lot of you guys do a lot of work up ahead of time to prepare for the guest and make sure you've got a lot of great questions ready for them. And it ends up being very interview focused, and you put a lot of time into letting them talk about their experiences and their story, which is like them getting their stories out there, whether it's Emma Browning or just Anders or Russ Mittermeier talking about like their adventures in the field. Right. It ends up being like more interview based. And so like in some ways we complement each other well as a result of that too, because between the two, you get some of each, but we both are heavily more towards one way or the other. And anyway, that's kind of one of the things that I've noticed, about CheloniaCast, and kind of how it contrasts with our show.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that a great overlap that we have, and this is something I've harped on, is it creates a free, publicly accessible digital database of expertise, of field experience, of, just things that people would not know unless you talk to them in person. And I think that's really important, especially in cases like with the older people that come onto our shows, because we just need to preserve that before it's lost to time.
In terms of like descriptive statistics about the show too, I have a little thing that tracks it because I got curious at one point. But I mean, like in terms of the people that we've covered so far, and maybe that gives you more an idea of what we're doing. I think we've spoken to 86, 87 different people. They represent over 90 different organizations or institutions. That's over 40 different universities. They've been cited. This one was really interesting measure to look at, a cumulative 262,000 times plus. And then it's based on like Web of Science or whatever logged read metrics. It's like over 3 million reads on different books, papers, that kind of thing. And obviously that's going to be way off. I'm sure it's a lot more. That's kind of like, that gives you an overview of what we've been able to do so far, just in terms of that kind of description stuff, I guess.
One of the cool things that I really appreciate from an outsider looking in on the work that you guys are doing is you just have the guts to go out and just get those, like we've had guests over the years who have been like, for me, in my mind, it's been a big deal to have them on. Like we're going to be on our best behavior, we're going to be organized, we're going to be respectful, we're going to make sure there's not an echo. Like, those guests where you're like, oh boy, all of your guests are like that, or the vast majority of your guests are like that. And it's something that I'm very impressed by to see you guys doing that. And to Steve's point about being kind of complementary of each other, like polar opposites, but complementary polar opposites. I think that the show just takes on the personality of the hosts as well. You guys are smart kids who care about science and discovery and all of that. And not that we don't care about that, but we like to come on and have a good time. And I think both of those things really show. And even though we care about both of those things, the scales are tipped in opposite directions. And I think it really makes for interesting complementary content, which is so cool. And that just goes back to that piece I say all the time. We had Emma Locke on years ago now, Exotic, and she mentioned something that sticks in my head all the time, that the algorithm loves when there are multiple people making the same sort of content. So there's always room for more. So if there's someone out there who's thinking about starting their channel or their podcast or whatever, a lot of us will support you just because we know how tough all of this. How many episodes have you guys done so far?
75 so far to date.
That's insane. We've been doing this since 2012. and this is episode 118. So, life happens and we only record once a month. When you guys are really rolling, how often are you having recording an episode?
A couple
I'd
times
say
a
we.
month. Like when it's really at its peak, sometimes it's like once a week, but occasionally we've had like long periods of not doing it, but at its peak, it's like a couple times a month, sometimes even a few times a week, but that's like really rare. That doesn't happen often. That's when we're on like
insane.
summer break or something. That's when we have like time. But
Yeah, I was about to say, over the summer we did like, God, what did we do? We did like 3 or 4 over like the course of 2 weeks, and they were all like really heavy hitters, and that was a really fun week.
Wow.
What does heavy hitter mean?
Just like people like Dr. Elliot Jacobson or Russ Mittermeier, Anders Hardin, just people who've had like a really deep history of working with the animals, and I have a lot to bite into and a lot to talk about. So these episodes usually go for like 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, and our
So what are your
schedule.
thoughts? Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Just our schedule as students is interesting. Like, I mean, we're usually get a lot of things going on between all of us, but it's in the semester it's like near impossible to record really anything. But like in the summer, we try stack things on top of each other and organizing. We're trying to deal with a team. Trying to figure out how to do that can be challenging, and we're constantly sort of working on how we can schedule things more efficiently. But a lot of it's stacked on top of each other. Sometimes it's not optimal. Someone, I think maybe Steve mentioned this, that like the background research that goes into a lot of them. I mean, we've spent between 5 to 15 hours sometimes preparing questions, and it's not like it's canned previously, but it is good, especially people that are in academia and research. They really want to know what they're going to talk about sometimes prior to coming on, because there's sensitive information, that kind of thing. And so it helps to really, I mean, a lot of times I'll dive through 400, 500 publications and skim that, and it's helped develop some of those skills and just create a list of like, we try to make them specific questions, a little bit beyond just like who, what, when, where, why, how, really kind of dig into the stuff we're interested in. Right. So I guess, a lot goes into it, and the scheduling's pretty kind of not optimal, but it works.
Anthony, how would you say that compares to the level of preparedness that we have for our podcast? We've talked about the differences. Let's just get it all out in the air now.
How dare you? How dare you? I mean, it doesn't compare. It's night and day different. And I mean, that doesn't make me feel bad. I'm just impressed with what you guys are doing. Like I'm a realist in that, we've been doing this now for, gosh, what is it? Going on 13 years, 13 years next month. Wow. So yeah, we've been doing this for a really long time, but we're not recording all the time. My wife and I did that with our Turtley Devoted show for a while, which I really enjoyed, but we were recording every week sometimes when we were excited about it. But then now it's been a long time. It's been like a year and a half since we recorded an episode of that. The Pondcast, if nothing else, we've achieved some sort of predictability and consistency, even if it's not, all the time. So I'm proud of that. However, it is a night and day difference between what you guys are doing and what we're doing, and you deserve all the respect for that and all the listenership. So if there's people out there who haven't checked them out yet, this crossover episode is here to introduce you to these guys. If you haven't seen them, you don't know who they are, you probably do. But if you're not checking out their show, you really need to be, because this is the work that's going into it from busy students who are trying to make a future for themselves at the same time. It's pretty impressive.
Speaking of the future, do you have any, if there's one dream guest you could have on your show, who would it be besides Anthony?
Be David Attenborough. That's one that we've kind of been wanting to do for a while.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You might get him. Honestly, you might get him.
I've been sniffing around it, and we're kind of on the trail for it. Hint,
I'm
nudge,
just waiting. Like
just waiting.
Next month, the CheloniaCast crew interviews Jane Goodall. This stuff is going to happen.
We already did Craig Stanford. I feel like we could do Shane Goodall.
You know, we did an interview with Craig Stanford, and that was one of the ones where it's like, okay, guys, come on, let's be prepared here. Let's not mess this up. We don't have as many of those episodes as you guys do.
Steve just pointed out in our private chat, there's stuff going on behind the scenes for you who don't know. Steve just said that Craig is one of the few guests who's done both shows. You know, I have to be honest, when I was going through the Instagram for CheloniaCast, I was also doing my research. Don't think we don't do research. I do research. I saw that you had a few people on there that I really wanted to poach. So just have your people get in contact with our people. We need some of the people that you're interviewing. We want them here too. So let them know. Okay.
Yeah, totally. That goes both ways. We can totally send we'll totally throw you guys a line at the end of the episodes after we wrap it up and see if we can get you some mutual guestship.
Yeah, thanks. All right. I'm going after someone I desperately want on would be the Orianne Society. Dr. Chris Jenkins, if you're out there, I'm coming for you. I want you on our show. So if any of you can make that happen, help us out. Throw us a bone here.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. Was that too desperate of a plug?
No, never. And poach away too. Who has been on both shows? You guys have done Greg Brashear, right?
Yes.
So that's another one. Yep. We haven't done Dan.
Was Grover on yours at one point?
Yep, Grover, Chris Leone.
Yeah, we had Grover on a long time ago. See, some of these guys we need to do again. We could have more conversations.
Right. Exactly.
Greg keeps shitting on himself in the chat, so I can see that. But we need to have him back on again some point.
Yeah. Steve in the chat said Jordan Donini and Chris Lekowitz. Those are folks that
we haven't had either of them yet. That's something we're trying to do. Jordan's actually agreed to do it in about a month. So
yeah. Oh, he's so good. So we've had him on twice. And now I guess officially we've had Chris Lekowitz on twice. He came on to our 10-year anniversary show where is that what that one was? Or was that? Yeah. And he was on for like 10 minutes only. We did like a rapid fire.
I think so. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Steve says yes.
Steve says yes. Steve knows all.
Yeah.
I think too, something that's focusing. I don't know who, there's a lot of people that would be interesting to talk to, but just focusing on the conversation we have had, I think that it's really important to mention, at this point, we've recorded about 130 hours of podcast, and none of that's possible without the 87 people that have participated. You know, we put it together and we put effort into making it a quality product, but if it wasn't for it's actually a really surprising, I'd say 80% of the people that we reach out to are really happy and excited to do it. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have anything to show for. And so it's really those are the conversations. That's why we're doing this and to really get in depth. And just for me, at least, a lot of the people that I really am most interested in talking to, the ones you see that they're cited in literature, but you look up something that they've given a presentation, you can't find anything. And some of those have just been, or very little, there's not so much a public presence as there is the creation of knowledge, and that's their contribution. But a lot of them really want to talk and just haven't been given the opportunity. And so so many interesting, the interviews we did with Scott Thompson. I mean, he's done 4 different recordings with us. He actually helped me get permission from Australian sect of the government to allow us to talk to Dr. Kukling. And he did a 3-day back-to-back with us where he showed us just the interworkings of the Kellogg shell, and that was just fascinating. And then there's just been so much that we have been able to do that I think we're all really grateful for everyone that has made it possible.
That's such a great point. And one of the things that we have thought about a lot over the years is there's going to be a time where some of these folks who we've interviewed aren't going to be around anymore. They're not going to be able to get onto a show like this and talk. It makes me a little nervous about the cloud and where all these things exist, and if one day they're just not there. But the fact that you can go back and see this archive of information that people have provided, like you said, just pro bono, because they care about the mission and what you're trying to do. It's incredible.
And just the connections too. I'm giving a presentation next month to a group of, it's the American Junior Academy of Sciences AAAS meeting, and it's supposed to be a talk about, because I was part of that program in high school, and so it's supposed to be a talk to the incoming students to that about like how do you get involved with the research, and what are some things that I know now that you would want to tell someone that you were in their position 4 years before? I think that I'm going to say, start a podcast, because not only have, we want to disseminate the information and make connections with people that are listening, and because it's really just our shared interest, but also the connections you make with the people that come on the show. I mean, the amount of things, I think the guys can talk about this. I don't even really know where to start. The amount of things we've been able to do and connections that have been made through doing this have been, I mean, it's not even, you couldn't have predicted this.
Something a mistake that I see people make often early on that I've made and I still continue to make is that whole like be curious versus, that be interested rather than interesting piece. And you guys are smart. We've been over this. So I've mentioned many times now you guys are smart. But can you speak to that challenge? And I mean, it probably helps that you guys have a lot of people on, so there's not a lot of opportunity for you guys to talk a lot because you have a guest. But you do such a good job as a group of very smart, very intelligent people in making your guests the focus. And I guess we kind of already talked about that. But is that something that you have to put a lot of effort into or had to at the beginning? Can you speak to that?
I mean, personally, in my experience, I feel like everything. You mean like, okay, sorry. So you mean like effort is in like, do we have to like, sorry, can you re-explain the question?
I can. I like to ask questions that are cryptic and difficult to answer. We get people on who we want to talk to and we get excited. Like I'm excited to see Jack's face come back on the screen right now. And we want to talk like it's a conversation, but that doesn't always necessarily work in this format. And it's really important to make sure that you're asking questions rather than just hogging the conversation like I've been doing this whole time.
So in my experience, and I'm sure the others can agree with this, there are certain episodes where it's kind of like we're kind of really dragging just because whoever we're interviewing is kind of shy, or they just, what we usually do is we have a long list of questions that kind of acts as a guideline for the show. So if things like kind of spiral, or if it kind of there's like a dead period, we can hit that. But for the most part, I would say in my experience, a lot of them are just, once you get in the flow of things, are really organic, and the conversation just kind of leads itself.
Yeah, I'll second that and say that most people that we have on, we all want to know something from them. We all want to know a lot from them. Like, so it's really talk about ourselves all that much other than like introductions. And it's a lot more kind of something Steve had said in the chat earlier. It's a lot more of like an interview kind of style. And once you get these people going, most of them want to talk about their work and want to talk about everything they've done. And a lot of them are like wind-up toys. It's like, get them started and they'll go and go and go and go, which is great because that gives us all the knowledge and everything we're looking for. They'll just give it to us. But sometimes it's like, yeah, people can keep going. Some of them keep going forever, which, yeah, that's a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if I have 4 hours, but other times it's like, that's like tons and tons of knowledge and information that they're just spewing out. So that's usually pretty good.
It can be tough to kind of.
This is for Charlie.
Yes, it is. MCF. Somebody asked me on the plane the other day what MCF stood for, and I was all excited to tell him, and he was like, I was just wondering, it's my daughter's initials. I was like, oh, okay, cool, bye. I was like hoping that he was interested in turtles or something because it has a turtle in the logo. It can be tough to kind of word this in a way that doesn't seem like you're slighting someone else, but I'd like to know, I want to try to word it the right way. What guest have you had that you recall having the most fun interviewing together? Because it's who's the best guest or who is your favorite? Like that sometimes can come off the wrong way. Who was just the most fun to talk? And I want to hear from all four of you. So I'm going to ask Ethan first because we haven't heard from Ethan for a while.
I've only joined a couple weeks ago, so I haven't been able to like really go through most of it. But if I haven't been on any of the podcasts, but my favorite one to watch was probably or listen to was probably Greg's podcast, Greg Bashir's podcast.
Isn't he great? He was in the chat
Yeah.
and he said he felt dumb on both of our shows, which is ridiculous.
I know.
He's the best.
He's like tearing himself down in the comments.
I heard him on a show. I don't know if it was from the ground up, maybe like a show that doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, God, why have we not had Greg on this show yet? He was like talking about some guy he was visiting who like was counting turtles like with a hooker, for lack of a better term. And he like the story that he told, it wasn't his. He was just there. Like he
I was gonna say that doesn't surprise me. That kind of sounds like
no, it wasn't. He wasn't doing anything he shouldn't have. You could listen to the podcast. So I realize it made us sound. I don't want to make Greg sound bad. Greg, sometimes turtles bring us into weird situations. And there was a weird person who had turtles and like some weird hooker there. And I'm sorry to use that word, but that's a word that the guy used that then Greg used. So anyway.
I don't know. Maybe he's
Greg
talking about
Greg
the time. This reminded me of something. This reminded me of something when I was with Greg and we were we were with Greg and this was me and we were with the Florida State herpetologist. It was Kevin Engie. This was like a year and a half ago. We were doing is there something? Because I see him talking, but I'm not hearing him.
There's a lag.
Okay. So, all right. Everybody else is good. Anthony's just there. Yeah. So, maybe my connection's a boom. I don't know.
Before the conversation gets a little derailed on talks of sex workers and
I was just going to finish my point real quick, though. I was going to say that we were trying to trap this for alligator snapping turtles. We ended up trapping in this little creek that turned out to be behind a strip club. And these like people came out and were like yelling at us and stuff. And then the guy we're with, who's this Florida State herpetologist, is like he's like, and what's the word? I'm trying to think. He's an interesting guy. So he goes out there and starts talking to them. We're talking at them. And eventually they're like, and they leave. But yeah, it just reminded me because you were saying something about hookers and then that came up. But yeah.
Welcome to the Pondcast.
Well,
Yeah.
I definitely want to say that my favorite episode was the Sybil Pritchard's episode that we did live from what was previously the CRI, the Chelonian Research Institute. I think that's one of the most personal episodes we've ever done, and hearing firsthand so many stories about her and Peter that only people who have been to the CRI and talked to Sybil will ever know. We're just great to get on film and out there. And that was also like one of the longest episodes we've done. I think the only one that was longer was Elliot Jacobson's. But that episode really drove home for me that true love does exist because those two were made for each other.
Hi, Alex. Yeah. Welcome.
Hello. Hey, Alex.
Thank you.
Hey, Alex.
Alex joined. Good timing.
We were just asking everyone what their most fun episode was, and you're up next. So go ahead.
Well, I can't say I've participated in any episodes yet. I've just edited one so far. I joined back in May, so I haven't had an opportunity to do much.
Well, welcome.
So Alex, you're doing behind the scenes editing?
Yeah.
You guys have a whole production team. This is exciting.
I'm jealous. We need a bigger production team.
Yeah, it makes it more doable. I would say I agree with Wyatt. The Sybil Pritchard episode was awesome. That was incredible. But besides her, I don't think we put the Fred Caparasso one out yet. Have we put that? Is that one out yet, Michael?
No, but you can talk about it.
No, I was just curious. I was wondering.
No. That's it.
But no, we talked a lot about because he'd been to the Galapagos a lot, like decades and decades ago, and had a lot of experience there, and that's one of my personal favorite like topics and areas. So I got to kind of interrogate him for a while and get a lot of really interesting information out of him. So that was probably my favorite one so far. But it's hard to pick. They're all most of them are really good, and most people end up creating a really interesting conversation. So
I know if I asked you that question tomorrow, you all might have different answers just because things come in and out of your brain. and there's so many, to your point, Jack. Charlie's asking, and I agree. Michael, you didn't answer that question.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick. There's favorites for different reasons. It's like certain things. Like we talked to Dr. Justin Congdon at the Turtle Survival at the symposium. We did 6, which was too much. It was like 9 hours of recording at the symposium.
That was fun. That was pretty intense, but it was fun.
Yeah, but and his was really interesting because he's just sort of so well versed in literally the father sort of turtle ecology and a lot of the modern theory in it. And there was a specific thing he was talking about, a certain growth model, and the things he thought about it that aren't right, and how it's kind of destroying that aspect of the field, and we need to look at it in different ways. That was really interesting. I think holistically, it's like little things like that stand out from a bunch of different things. Holistically, the one that really was surprising to me was actually with George Balaz. He's a sea turtle scientist that people with freshwater turtles, tortoises may not be as familiar with. But George is, he's been the critical player in Oceania's sea turtle conservation, Hawaii sea turtle conservation, and has done probably more than anyone else. He's just 430 different articles on them. He's played a role in regulations and communicating with different agencies, and it's just his passion was so palpable. It just like was a certain type of feeling. We went on for 2.5 hours with him, and it was just, you got lost in the way that he explained how much he cared for the turtles. And he's 83 now, 82, 83, and I put some photos in the list of questions we had for him. I thought that would be interesting. He's got a website, and for anyone out there, I would highly recommend just looking at it because it's a lot more than just turtles you'll take away from that. But I put photos in there, and he could describe every person that was in a picture and everything about them and what they were doing in 1972 or 1977 and all the things about that and why it was important and how much the turtles mean. And he just had a certain like emotional, pathological appeal that was just different than a lot of other people we've talked to. So that stands out to me. I don't know how to define favorite, but that was a really good one.
I have another question, if you guys will have me. There's a large group of guests on this show. There's 5 of you guys, and that's not the norm for us. You have had a large group creating these episodes from the beginning, and that can be tough. It's a tough dynamic, but you've recently brought in new people, right? Ethan and Alex are newer. So can you speak to that a little bit? Like why the decision? Because to me, it's surprising, again, from an outsider looking in, that a big group of podcasters would want to get bigger because it's difficult to navigate that.
I think, I think it works pretty well. I think that the more hands we have to distribute the weight, the better, and the easier and the quicker we can crank these episodes out. Like Michael and Jack and I have iterated, we are all students. We are all super busy. So we all also have different schedules. So when somebody's taking an exam or a test, somebody else, like Michael or Torsten, who's another editor for our podcast, could be doing editing because their schedule is completely different. So we're not all bound and locked by the same schedule, essentially, which means that we all have somebody at least working on something at some point in time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's like, just in terms of like what kind of product we're trying to produce, we want it to be quality, and it takes a lot, more than it's like, there's a certain rule, I think, with work in general, is it's going to take you 3 times as long as you think it's going to take if you want to make it really good, at least with science stuff, and at least 3 times as long. And so for this, it's like you could just do an average whatever and that kind of thing. But we want to make it a quality product, and that's a reflection of all the guests we have on. That's an expectation, I would say, from a lot of these people, because they've done very quality work, and we want to represent them in that fashion. And so like a lot of the people we've brought on board, and a lot of this is my fault in setting it up. A lot of it was kind of centralized with me, and like Wyatt said, we just don't have, I don't have enough time to manage all of it as a single person. And so it's like we're bringing a lot of people on that aren't necessarily actively participating in the discussions. They can if they want, but it's just more editing and disseminating and creating a sort of a chain of efficiency so we can do the pre-production, the questions, really looking in and feeling each guest and diving into the subject and really feeling it, and then doing the interview and then getting the interview and cutting it and making it look nice. And there's a lot that goes into it. So a lot of I think you need a good team of good people to do that kind of thing.
Well said.
It seems like it takes a lot of energy, I would say, for all of you combined with balancing schoolwork and doing CheloniaCast, distributed between all of you. But if you're all students, have any of you thought about what you're going to do with CheloniaCast after you graduate? I imagine you'll have significantly less time once you enter the workforce and have a normal 9 to 5, or you're out in the field working. What's your plan for the CheloniaCast in the future?
I mean, we've talked about it. One thing that we're definitely interested, I think we're only growing from here. I don't think we're going to slow down at all. At least that's not what I want to do. I can't attest to Michael and Jack, but we've been looking into perhaps going into making a documentary on the history of turtle conservation. We also think there's maybe potential to turn it into a nonprofit, or just to turn it into something bigger than just a podcast once we have more freedom.
Yeah, I would say that's it's for me thinking about what's realistic and how can we expand it. Like I think like Wyatt said, we want to what else can we do with this? I think an interesting take on it is I took an economics class last semester that was, for anyone that thinks that economics is just an easy thing. A lot of times science people sort of talk bad about that. Oh, it's so easy. It's definitely not easy. This is a really challenging class, but it made me think a lot about like conservation needs a lot more sort of money in it, and protecting land, I think, is like the biggest thing that you really can do, because you don't have to put up with bureaucracy if you own the property, essentially, to a certain extent. And thinking a lot more about how do you merge economic growth with interest in conservation or research is like, I think about just in the age of technology that we're in now, how could we take something like this and maybe make it profitable to a certain extent, and be able to put some money back into something. And I don't know exactly how you do that. I guess I'd open it up to everyone, like, is that something you think you could do with a podcast? And like, how do you think that would work?
Yeah, I think it would have to be full steam ahead for you starting now. But I mean, you're already doing an incredible job. So
yeah, it's, that's part of if you look at all of the conservation organizations out there, many of them don't, and I'm talking about like grassroots, like many of them don't have a huge reach. And then the ones that do, they kind of have the same pool that they're pulling from. Being able to really, I think in the turtle landscape, the best example of success in that area is the Turtle Conservancy, because of Eric Good's reach and everything that he's been able to do. But I think you can do it with a podcast. But it's, podcasts rarely go viral. I was wondering whether or not you guys ever had any thoughts about YouTube when you see so many other people. I mean, there are people that literally make lots of money off of YouTube just playing around with turtles. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I can't speak for anyone else here, but that's like a lot of time, money, and effort that a lot of us don't. That's like a lot more time, money, and effort than what a podcast requires. So that's like kind of kept me away from thinking about that. But I think it's a good idea.
Steve, you have some thoughts on back end.
A YouTube channel. Sorry. Don't you guys already have a YouTube channel? Everything just froze for me for a second.
Yeah, I know. That's what I keep getting. I mean, we
do have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, all of our
Sorry,
podcast episodes are on YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Steve, look at you. Fancy.
Apparently number 7 goes wide. This is the first time we've ever had this many cameras on screen. I had no idea what a 7th one was going to do.
Breaking records. You deserve it, Steve. You deserve your own space like that.
That's better. That's better.
Yeah, that's way better.
This is Brady Bunch. That's before my time, okay, young guys? That's before my time, but that reminds me of the Brady Bunch.
I mean, like Jack was alluding to, the content creating, it's pretty time intensive, and like you don't really get a break. You have to have stuff going constantly to maintain that draw from the algorithm to keep the money flowing. Like whether you're a Twitch streamer or whether you're doing what like Chris and Casey and them do. Like, I mean, Casey, like her full-time job in some ways is doing all the video stuff for their channels, because you've got to just maintain this flow. And like, you have to be willing to kind of just like burn the candles at both ends, or, you know, just kind of leave other stuff be for a while to grind that up to that. But yeah, you know, I've got, you know, we've talked with the Turtle Room about, some of these big ideas, and the biggest piece you need for any of these big ideas is that funding piece, right? So and so it is like, whether it's making it profitable or just like as a nonprofit, like, I mean, it still needs to be profitable. Nonprofit doesn't actually, the tax term is not nonprofit. The tax term is tax exempt organization, because it should be understood. And I think this is something that gets lost because of the terminology we tend to use in the layman's terms, right? We call it a nonprofit, but like, for nonprofits to do their work, they need to generate income, right? And for nonprofits to do long-term good work, they need to essentially develop profit so they can grow. Right, you can't grow without essentially profit. If you're just constantly meeting expenses, right, you don't have anything left over to grow with, right? And so, whatever it happens to be, it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing, though. With a tax exempt organization, people don't want to throw money at you if they don't see you doing stuff, and if you don't do stuff, nobody, but you can't do stuff without more money, right? And we were kind of alluding to this, in some previous shows, we've talked about this kind of thing as well. So like, I think it's a question like almost everybody who's heavily invested in turtle conservation asks is how do we get the resources we need to do the things we think or even know need to be done. Right. So
this is something, it's really an interesting subject, and like through doing the podcast, something I've been thinking about a lot lately is there's kind of an opportunity that came up to help with a big project looking at southeastern turtle diversity richness of turtles in the southeastern U.S. And like what Steve, what you're saying, we're looking at that question. Like you see Alabama, Georgia, Florida, these places are insanely. I mean, Alabama, when you stack it up against other countries and biodiversity hotspots, it's ranked 5th in terms of turtle richness. It's ridiculous, but there's really not much money in it. And the question of, how do you get money into turtle conservation when it sort of runs in a different direction from that? And like, harnessing this podcast or creative ways to raise money by using the turtles is sort of the centerpiece, rather than doing it, because anyone can go out and do a different path and fund themselves, that kind of thing. But that you sort of want to have a different passion on the side, I think. But I'm just curious, like what everyone, maybe listeners and everyone else thinks about, what is, like you said, it's like a chicken and the egg. It's like a time investment versus realistic payoff question of how much time do I want to put in this versus how much is it going to actually pay off? And I don't know. Do people think a podcast could really be something and that brings in money to the point where it could protect habitat or make a difference, or does it make sense to look elsewhere? Or what do people think? I'm curious.
I'll just add, I think as a microcosm for this conversation, for this part of the conversation, a lot of successful nonprofits are able to, sorry, Steve, for using that term, are able to, as my attempt at humor, recruit people in like on their board who have a lot of access to folks who have influence and money and that sort of thing. But you also want your board to have workers who are energized and really passionate about what you're trying to accomplish. Like a good balance usually can go a long way, because really the name of the game is how do you connect? And it can be anything. There's no wrong way. You know, I talked about the Turtle Conservancy, like Eric Good, you know, before Tiger King and before his documentaries were seen by anyone, that was just something that he liked to do. He made several documentaries about turtles that were not seen by a bunch of people. They were just seen by turtle nerds like us on a very small scale. And then he was able to find something, and that something happened to line up. There's like this Venn diagram, you know, what can you do and what resonates with people, and can you find that overlap a little bit? And he was able to do that. And then Tiger King happens and the rest is history. But that's not all he did. You know, he also was a successful businessman who had access to people with influence and money. So that helps a lot. And I'm not trying to downplay anything that he's accomplished, because I mean, that is the pinnacle, not just for turtle conservation, but for, you know, a grassroots nonprofit conservation organization to grow into this, you know, superpower that's buying up tons of land and conserving all sorts of species outside of just turtles. So I think it's like, how do you catch lightning in a bottle? How do you find that right person on the right elevator to give your elevator pitch to? It's like success comes when preparation meets opportunity. So you do what you do and you do it well, and then you keep trying to connect to people and, you know, find that person who's going to help take it to the next level with you, if that makes sense. That's what's so hard about it. And all the people that are, you know, this is how you do it. This is how you know, this is the formula that you use. That's like, it's not. That's what's so much fun about it, though, especially when you're younger. I can remember my early days as a professional working with people to build these different grassroots initiatives. That's the most fun I've ever had in my professional life, because we didn't know what would happen, but we were having fun doing it, and we were doing it for the love of it, knowing that we would eventually build something special. I'll be quiet.
Well, if Chris Drake ever gets a lottery or ever wins the lottery, he said he'll fund it for you. So there you go. Just keep buying him lotto tickets.
I'm going to come be your bodyguard, Chris. I die for you. Remember that.
Yeah, if we ever end up becoming a nonprofit, we're actually going to pump all of our money into Chris Drake's lottery addiction instead of turtles.
It's an investment. It's an investment. Yeah. Exactly.
No, I like what Jeremy said in the comments about, or in the chat about the old school TC documentaries. Those were really good. Like I remember watching those when I was in like high school and stuff, and it was just like captivating. So it's like there's a lot of room left for stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that goes into that, like a lot of, you know, resources, traveling, time, money. But that would be worth it.
And it's cool to think about. The writing was on the wall all those years ago, and then he goes and makes Tiger King. Go ahead, Michael.
I mean, even that kind of thing, I wonder if, you know, those are really interesting in terms of the knowledge production, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's somebody said you can't really calculate the impact those documentaries have on conserving habitat on turtles, and I'm sure it's a great thing. But when it comes to just raising funds for something, I think we have to naturally work a little bit harder. And I don't have a ton of experience in this, but it's just kind of, I mean, I've got a lot of friends now that are into like technology, computer science, that kind of thing. And they'll just get into like a little rabbit hole, and all of a sudden they're making bank just doing something that they're really interested in. Whereas we go and we'll invest a lot of time into something, and it's a fun thing and it's good for us, but it's not getting a lot of those resources that are certainly justified to protect that habitat. And it's like, there's some level of, yeah, you don't want to do things for the money, but if you're doing it for the organism and the money is what you need in order to protect it most effectively, there's sort of and I think there's so many opportunities now, like something like this. Maybe you expand the podcasts more broadly or something and get a larger listener base, and you create just those connections, like you said, Anthony, and that you get into that space where you have kind of motivated people and people that are sort of devoted to it, and you can get something really going. But it's like a snowball effect, maybe.
I think if anyone who's ever been a part of the Turtle Room is going to find someone who's got a lot of wealth and wants to invest it, it's going to be somebody like Chris Leone. And they'll be like, oh, here's this guy who knows a lot about turtles. And I found him just in my Google search. And now, I'm a multimillionaire and I'm going to, ask this guy what I should do with my money. And then all of a sudden they're partners. So it's not necessarily just about the money, but the reach. There are people out there that look for people with expertise, which is you guys, and you're getting this head start to be able to start to tap into that. And that's the challenge, I think, because we want to learn so much, but to your point, Michael, and taking that class and starting to think about those things now is so important, because it's all about that connection and what that can grow into and thinking in that way. Because I guarantee you the businessman, Eric Good, was thinking that way in a way that we don't, because we're not business moguls. And mogul is like an infamous word, but it wasn't meant as a diss. That's a compliment.
Anthony, I was going to ask you to make some inspirational closing remarks, but I didn't have to. You already did it. You just did it right there.
That was good, right? So just get out there every day and try to make the world a better place. And success comes when preparation meets opportunity, man. Write that down, Jack.
I guess I'd also say too, for people listening, like, we want to just, the conversation's open and just what people want to see. I mean, we want to do that in terms of who we talk to on the podcast, and also just where future directions to take it. We're constantly learning, and just the connections we've been able to make with people that listen have been great. So it's just, please, if you've got any ideas for how we can turn this into something, or you have a vision for it, I mean, please get in touch, because that's really, like, if we could turn this something into more than just an sort of a knowledge dissemination type of thing, that would be incredible.
Michael, keep that plug going. Where can they reach you if they want to reach out to you guys?
My email's a good one for me, but Instagram or social media, and everyone else can,
I mean, all of us here, you can always get all of us at firstname.lastname at theturtleroom.org. Like, in fact, everybody on this screen currently has access to such an email address. So, and you can also get Michael, Wyatt, Jack, and Alex at CheloniaCast.org. It goes to the same email box. Just, easy to reach. All right.
And I doubt that there's any listeners here who haven't heard of you guys on CheloniaCast, but you can also reach out to them on you have a YouTube, they have a social media. I'm assuming you have a Facebook. I don't have a Facebook because I'm ancient, but Instagram too. So reach out to them.
Yeah, so we're pretty pretty active on everything except Facebook. I don't know what's the deal with the Facebook situation is right now, but I kind of have everything going to my Facebook just because we don't post anything on the CheloniaCast Facebook anymore. But yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to ever come on also who's watching, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have more people on.
I just want to, as we wrap this up, I just want to bask in the glory of the amazing community that's growing around all of us. And you guys are such a huge part of the hope and excitement around that. And I'm just very proud to know you guys and to be able to see all the amazing work you do. To meet Wyatt and Jack this year, I mean, I've already hung out with Jack a couple different times in the state of Florida. Michael, you and I have hung out in California, in Arizona, in Florida. I mean, how else does this happen but in the world of turtles? It's crazy, we don't have a ton of disposable cash to go around and do all the crazy stuff that we want to do necessarily, but somehow we make it work. And I don't know, it's awesome to be a part of it. And the amount that you guys have accomplished in such a short amount of time really is incredible. And I'm very proud to know you guys and very grateful for everything that you do.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for the comments. And I think that we just need to acknowledge, I mean, you're talking about the connections that you guys, the Turtle Room, have helped us so much with this. I mean, something we didn't talk about, I'll go quick, but was just early on in doing this, recording a podcast is challenging to do. And I'd reach out to Steve just to see if he had advice, and he was quick to say, I mean, we could integrate this fully, and just that was incredible for me, especially just like, dang, this is awesome. This group that I've looked up to since I was young, we've all looked up to, I think, really helping us with this and believing in it is at that level was just like we're extremely grateful for the what you guys have put into this and continue to put into it. So thank you for the inspiration. Even, I mean, you're the first turtle podcast, you know, there's some level of, you planted a seed, you know?
That's awesome.
Aw.
I'm not crying.
Aw.
You're crying.
Are you actually crying? You look like you're crying.
I have long eyelashes. It makes me. Yes, I'm crying.
It's okay, Anthony.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Well,
Jack.
thank you so much for joining us.
He's very sweet. Jack and his deep voice and his big hands. It's very sweet.
Yep.
Well, we really do appreciate everything you guys do for us and have done for our careers. And we thank you so much for having us on and doing this collab.
Now it's time to do it the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry I was late.
Well,
it's all right, Alex. It's
You know,
good to meet you tonight.
something we here at the CheloniaCast love to do at the end of every episode is we like to do a little bit of trivia.
Ooh, let's do it.
Yeah, what would you like to lead?
Do you have it prepared?
Someone's got to have something.
That's how good they are.
Sure.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, we all just kind of go around. I mean, anybody who's watched CheloniaCast to the end of the episodes, that's how we test if you're a real fan or not. Is we do a little bit of trivia at the end of every episode. We just go around. We all ask each other just a single question to see who can get it right. Just try to stump each other.
Yeah, Michael likes
I
to
love
phrase
that.
it as if it's the first time we ever do it to every single guest. So kind of keep them like, it's like, oh, he's like, I usually mention this, or I forgot to mention this. That's what you say. And it's like, you knew damn well you didn't mention
like
it.
that.
Just keep them in the dark.
No,
good, though. I like that.
It is fun. I mean, you can watch people start sweating sometimes as you ask them the question because they get so worked up on it. It's just like it.
That's me right now. I was crying and now I'm sweating.
Someone's got to have a question. Come on, we'll have an answer too. There's no way that someone's going to stump.
Yeah, we'll let you guys ask us this time around.
Yeah, it's true. That's how it should go.
So, okay, CheloniaCast guys, do you remember who the original co-host of the podcast was?
That's a great question.
I know that one.
No cheating.
There were two original co-hosts. One is very bald,
Anthony.
very tall. Yep.
And the other one's just tall.
He's bald too.
Oh, is he bald now? Okay. But
Yeah.
anyway,
He's not as bald as me. but
anybody
yeah.
remember?
Dude, they were like
I know, they were babies.
6.
It was 13 years ago.
They were like 7 years old.
Well, wait, I've got a question. Was because a lot of your buddies were on this the turtle chase. Was it someone that was on the turtle chase?
Yes.
Can we ask?
Yes.
What's his name? Is his name John? Am I tripping?
Bingo. Nailed it.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, because you said another tall guy, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah. We started it together, and it was his idea. The non-turtle person, the only non-turtle person to ever be on the podcast, was the one who came up with it. Look at Wyatt. Wyatt, that is, oh man, I watched American.
He just saw the comment. Somebody said that they're mad
Yep.
Wyatt isn't dressed up.
So sexy. I watched American Psycho today, and I'm really loving the late 80s, early 90s vibe I'm getting from you right now.
I actually take most of my fashion inspiration from a mixture of Bob Dylan and Wes Anderson's films.
Oh, I
Interesting.
love Wes
Interesting.
Anderson. I was just talking about him today and his films. Love Wes Anderson.
So yeah, I mean,
Is one of my favorite movies.
People love it.
Yeah, the people love Wyatt dressing up.
The people, I'm right here. The people love Wyatt dressing up. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either I'm either dressed like Bob Dylan or I'm dressed like I'm straight out of the Royal Tenenbaums or Fantastic Mr.
Oh,
Fox.
I love it. Love it.
Well, yeah. Thank you for having us on and everything. This
Thank
was
you, guys.
great.
Thank you
This
so
is
much for
definitely,
joining us tonight.
When we were younger, was definitely like some of our first inspirations and introductions to the turtle world too. So.
Super chat.
And Wyatt just got us a $50 donation. Great job, Wyatt.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Steve, can we put that over into
Maybe you could get them to, if you start taking clothes off, maybe they'll put more. I don't know.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
All right,
So,
I should have said that. Sorry.
A few things before we go tonight. I've tossed it up a couple times, but if you still haven't gotten one yet, you should get a
Calendar.
calendar. There's actually a lot of pictures from Michael in the calendar this year, as well as some of our other friends and partners. $2 from each calendar also goes to Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation as this year's calendar partner as well. As always, you can donate to the Turtle Room on our website. You can donate to the CheloniaCast as well, which is under the Turtle Room. Any donation directed to the CheloniaCast would be put towards their various expenses as well.
Can we put that 50 towards them? Because it was
we
Wyatt?
probably could. I'll try to remember that when I see it come back. Well, I'm going to have to remember that one because YouTube stuff all just comes in one big fell swoop. So,
Come on.
but yeah,
Come on. Figure it out.
we'll get there. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Your brain is
Awesome.
too big. You got this. I love you guys. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.